This is Democracy Watch. Mark, we are right now seeing more of the most chilling plan that Donald Trump is enacting as it relates to Project 2025, and that is Schedule F. We spoke about this a couple of days ago. We're seeing him lean more into it right now. I'm going to read a quick excerpt from the Washington Post as it relates to this plan. Donald Trump's White House Office of Personnel Management sent an email blast to civilian government employees offering them an easy way to quit with pay through September 30th, which is the most sweeping effort yet by the new Trump administration to shrink the ranks of the federal workforce. It instructed employees to reply to the message saying if they want to resign and would like to take the offer, which would provide the incentive for workers who accept by February 6th. So, Mark, this is Schedule F playing out in real time. This is Donald Trump's efforts to shrink the civilian workforce, to shrink the ranks of career civil servants in real time. Can I have your reaction to what we're seeing right now?
Yeah, I think it's worse than that. I think it's not just about shrinking them, it's about replacing them. And that's a difference, by the way, worth paying attention to. It'd be one thing if what Donald Trump wanted to do is simply reduce the overall headcount of the federal government. But remember, Schedule F is about replacing career civil servants with his political cronies. And you cannot understand this latest offer you can't refuse, right? You can't disconnect it from the threats that have been behind it, right? The people who have been sent home, the people who have been told that they need to prove loyalty, the people who have, the federal prosecutors who have said, who have been told that they need to collect up their emails about prosecution decisions and send them for review. So, this is not beneficence that is being bestowed on the federal government workforce. This is an effort to, carrot and stick, right? We've seen the stick, maybe you won't have your job for long anyway. We've canceled all these other things. And here's the carrot, but you can get yourself out. But don't think that Donald Trump is not going to replace these people. He's going to replace them with his handpicked cronies who are going to be put in these positions to advocate loyalty to him. And that is something we need to all be worried about and we all need to stand up against.
More clearly, Trump has a vested interest in getting rid of these people because they have deference to the Constitution and not to Donald Trump himself. Of course, to your exact point, he wants to replace them with people who will be deferential to him and not the Constitution or their jobs more broadly. He wants to replace them with Trump lackeys, not people who are going to just do their jobs in accordance with the law or the Constitution. And so what's your message to these people who clearly are an obstacle, who serve as an obstacle to Trump, who, look, may not have the resources or the appetite to serve as some bulwark against the president of the United States?
Yeah, I get it. And like I said, it is not just that you're asking these folks to stay and be a bulwark against Donald Trump, the president of the United States, their ultimate boss. But also, Donald Trump has already showed that he's willing to fire people. Right. He's willing to send people home. So some of these people may be like, look, the
writing's on the wall.
The writing's on the wall, right? I'm gone either with pay or I'm gone without pay. So I might as well take the pay. What I say to folks is before you give in, before you capitulate, ask yourself, is there a way that you can stay and continue government on the merits? I don't want people to do things that, are not in their best interest and their family's best interest. If billionaires are not willing to stand up, if the legacy media is not willing to stand up, it is hard to ask individual government employees to stand up. But if you are in a position to withstand this, if you are in a position to stay in your position, stay in your position. Like, don't be threatened out of it. Don't be enticed out of it. If you love your job and you think you can make a difference, stay. And also, let's see whether there is, in fact, a resistance put up to this. I don't know whether will be legal challenges to this, but if there are, let's see what those are. Because, Donald Trump has been shown to not always dot all the I's and cross all the T's. And there may be challenges to this. And the one thing I'd end by saying is Donald Trump has a history of making a lot of promises that he doesn't keep. And, he's promising right now a payday for you. Read the fine print. Because let's see whether Donald Trump was famous in New York for stiffing vendors and employees. Don't wind up on the stiff end of this deal.
Mark, we've spoken about this before, but in terms of the recourse for these people, I mean, look, we know that he has it's his prerogative whether he wants to keep the political appointees in office, but these career civil servants have protections, and yet the fact that he is already moving to fire them right now, and he has fired a few thus far. He's fired the folks who run the immigrations courts. This is just a sampling of what he obviously plans to do. We know that only people who have standing to sue are those who've been harmed by him, meaning the people who themselves have been fired. As I mentioned before, those people might not have an appetite to go up against the president of the United States. And so as we see this more and more, is there any indication that we might be able to see either some type of class action lawsuit or some folks be able to sue on behalf of these career civil servants who individually, again, might not want to go up against Donald Trump?
Yeah, let's just review the bidding on some of the groups of individual employees that you and I have talked about either directly or in other videos. Number one, as you point out, you have the career senior executive service members who were who oversaw the immigration courts. They were targeted. We saw federal prosecutors, right? You remember not that long ago, just a few days ago, they fired career prosecutors, which is in direct violation of the rules. He has essentially forced out other federal prosecutors by either forcing them to be reassigned out of their area of expertise into other areas that like immigration. We have seen him send people home. Say basically, don't come to work while we review whether or not you have been sufficiently loyal to Donald, to the new incoming administration. So we've seen a lot of different tactics that they've used. This is just another way to do that by saying to people, hey, maybe this is an offer you can't refuse. It's very, it is very strong-handed tactics. Yeah. And we need to see litigation against this. We need to see people stand up. By the way, I skipped over that, the inspector generals, who he also fired, who in direct contravention of federal law that requires it be done for cause and that Congress be given notice. So I think we're going to see litigation across a bunch of these vectors. But I think the biggest problem is that some of the people, particularly at the lower level, even if there's a class action, they're like, look, I just need to get on with my life. Right. And, he's given me pay and I'm just going to go into the private sector. And that is a real problem. That will be a way in which Donald Trump is able to effectuate his plan. So I think, Brian, the more important resistance point here, the more important oppositional point here is to not allow him in rehiring to apply a political litmus test. Like in some ways, if people leave, they leave. And there's, you can't force people to stay in the federal government, whether they take this deal or they just decide to leave. But we can insist that the people who are hired not be asked questions like who won the 2020 election, with only one right answer, which is the lie.
Right. I do want to, I know that we're talking about this, and I know that for some folks who might be hearing like the concern in our voices and say, well, who cares if the president fires people who don't share his political ideology? It's the government. The government is usually staffed by people who share the ideology of the president. And then if a Democrat wins, those people will leave and Democrats will come in. But I want to just kind of offer, I think, the natural conclusion of this plan, and let me know if you think that this carries water in terms of not just the top level folks, but the career civil servants, the people who make up the agencies, the people who make up the IRS and the FEC and the DOJ and the FBI. The natural conclusion of that, if those people are filled with career civil servants, these are the people, by the way, who served as a bulwark to even Bill Barr's worst excesses, which is why even he had to come out and say, in the aftermath of the Donald Trump's 2020 election saga, even he had to say that it was bullshit because all the folks below him were not willing to engage in this farce along with Donald Trump. But if those people turn into Trump loyalists, if we have the DOJ and the FBI, that means, for example, if we have white nationalist groups who are interfering in elections, who are standing by ballot boxes and drop boxes, and it's up to the DOJ and the FBI to investigate those folks, and they want to bury their heads in the sand because those are their political allies, they can decide to do that. If you have the FEC that wants to pull the broadcasting licenses of folks who are critical of Donald Trump, and those entire agencies are comprised of people who share Trump's political ideology, there is no bulwark to preventing them from doing that. If there's folks at the IRS who are now just Trump loyalists and they want to investigate and audit people who are Trump's enemies or critics who've spoken out, businesses who've spoken out against Donald Trump. There is no bulwark to them being able to do that. Would you agree that that's the natural conclusion of the effort that we're just seeing to take place right now?
It is. Look, I wrote a piece for Democracy Docket this week entitled "There Will Be Retribution," and I think we just need to all understand there will be retribution. There has already been retribution. There was retribution in his first term. Remember the stories came out. He went after John Kerry, of all people, tried to get the federal prosecutor in Manhattan to go after John Kerry. We know that he told people in the White House that he wanted to see Hillary Clinton prosecuted. And we know that he has already taken steps in the last week, since he's been president, that are retributive in terms of firing prosecutors who had any connection to Jack Smith's investigation. So there is going to be retribution. There will be the weaponization of government. There will be the misuse of the IRS. There will be the misuse of other federal agencies, the denial of benefits, the denial of licenses, all of this stuff you just listed. That is what Donald Trump wants, and his political appointees will carry that out. The question is, how easy will it be? How efficient will it be? Because that goes to scale, right? That goes to how many people can see themselves on the receiving end of that retribution. And if Donald Trump is able to penetrate into the non-political staff to a significant extent, the nonpartisan, the professional staff, then that retribution will look a whole lot more like authoritarianism. It'll look a whole lot more like, Putin and Orban than it will like even just normal Trumpian, nonsense. And so I think we all need to be really worried. I think we all need to be prepared. And I think we also need to know sort of who is on our side and who's not. And the big corporate oligarchs are not on our side. People know that. But what I'm afraid is that for some of the people watching this, they think that legacy media is on our side. They read those big newspapers. They watch those television networks. And I'm here to tell you they are not on our side. They are on the side of the oligarchs. They are on the side of making nice with Trump. They are bending their knee. They are bowing and scraping. And they are finding ways to put money in Donald Trump's pocket because they are afraid. And so the reason why we are now, you and I are approaching our 250th video, and we'll exceed this, is because we are among the few, you in particular, are among the few who are willing day in and day out to expose Donald Trump and the Republican Party and MAGA for what they are, and we owe you a debt of gratitude.
Well, I appreciate that, and I would reiterate what you said. For folks who are watching right now, if you are looking for fearless journalism, especially right now as legacy media continues to drop the ball, look, the reality is that so few people are talking about Project 2025 and Schedule F, and the same people who should be talking about that are right now figuring out ways to line Donald Trump's pockets with money, whether it's just $1 million donations to his inaugural fund or settling frivolous lawsuits for $15 million. These are not the people who are going to hold him to account. You have done exactly that with Democracy Docket. So for everybody watching right now, if you are not yet signed up, please support good journalism and support fearless journalism. That is Democracy Docket. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video.
Yeah, and Brian, you said something that I think is really important, which is about Project 2025 and what the work that I've tried to do with Democracy Docket that you and I have done together, that you've done on your channel. Just look at what the legacy media is saying now. What's their refrain? Their refrain is, well, this is what he said he would do. And they offer this as an excuse. In other words, the implication is that Donald Trump said he would do all these horrible, terrible things. People voted for him anyway, and therefore it's legitimate. I mean, that is what you hear literally that is what you read every day and hear every day. Well, I remember when Donald Trump said I had nothing to do with Project 2025. I disavow it, right? You're not seeing legacy media say that. They are finding ways to create a permission structure now for Donald Trump by saying he campaigned on this, even though at the time he did. But also, even if he did campaign on it, can you imagine how absolutely amoral you have to be to say because he said he was going to do horrible and terrible things, he was going to violate the Constitution, he was going to ignore the law, he was going to victimize the most in need of protection in this country, that somehow it's okay? But that's what you're seeing in so much of the coverage right now in legacy media.
Right. I mean, it is a wholesale inability to meet the moment, and we've seen it over and over. We saw it in the first term, and I think it's solidified to a degree that even I didn't expect to see right now. But look, that is paving the way for outlets like yours to step into their place. So again, I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.